In my senior year of high school, my brother threw his future away and ran away with the girl he loved. Thanks to my intervention, he didn't succeed, and he ended up hating me for it. Later, he got into college and went on to have a successful career, while I, because of him, wasn't even able to take the college entrance exam. He said, "You made me lose the most important thing to me. Today, I'm going to make you feel the same pain." Later on, in an attempt to get back together with his first love, he handed me over to her crazy older brother. After being tortured to death by that man, I was reborn back to the day my brother eloped. This time, I've decided to respect the blessing. If you dare to make another sound and bring the neighbors over, I won't let you off the hook. I was woken up by the pain. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw my brother, Zhou Yunyuan, gripping my throat tightly, his expression looking particularly ferocious. Beside him was a suitcase and a backpack full of money. I quickly realized that I had been reborn back to the day my brother eloped for love. I struggled to force a few words out. "I won't stop you from running off with Shenhuan." My brother loosened his grip slightly, sounding a bit skeptical. "You're not lying to me, are you?" I nodded. "Really? I certainly don't want to end up like I did in my last life." In his previous life, Zhou Yunyuan was still a senior in high school, got involved in a teenage romance with Shenhuan. He skipped class with her to play video games, smoke, and speed around in cars, causing his grades to plummet. My parents were against their relationship, so Zhou Yunyuan stole the money my mother had set aside for her medical treatment and ran away with Shenhuan. After I caught him and stopped him, he began to hate me, and he also began to hate my parents for forcing him to break up with me. He hasn't been back home since he started college. He said, "I worked my butt off to get into a good college just to get away from you disgusting family." Unexpectedly, my parents ended up resenting me because of it. "It's all your fault for sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. You insisted on stopping your brother from eloping, and now he won't even acknowledge us." But then my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and if I hadn't stopped him, she wouldn't have had the money for surgery or treatment. Later, in an attempt to get back together with Shenhuan, Zhou Yunyuan kidnapped me and handed me over to Shenhuan's deranged older brother. To curry favor with Zhou Yunyuan, Mom and Dad even went so far as to break both my legs, so I couldn't run away and drag him down with me. "You owe us this. Just accept your fate." This time, I decided to do as they wished and stop meddling. At that moment, Zhou Yunyuan still found it hard to believe. "I can't help but feel like you're just saying this to keep me in line. As soon as I leave, you'll go and tip off Mom and Dad." I looked at him earnestly. "I wouldn't do that. Actually, I've always thought you and Shenhuan are a perfect match. Mom and Dad are just so old-fashioned. What era are we living in? They still judge everything by grades. A person's character has nothing to do with their grades. How can they stop you from dating her just because her grades aren't great?" Zhou Yunyuan looked deeply moved, as if he had found a kindred spirit. "Tong Tong, you really understand me. I had no choice either. There isn't room for both Huan Huan and me here. But surely there's a place somewhere that can accommodate us." I nodded. "Go ahead. I'll pretend I didn't hear a thing." Only then did Zhou Yunyuan finally let go of me. With his backpack full of emergency savings and a suitcase in tow, he set off toward what he believed would be a wonderful life. I just watched coldly. "Dear Mom and Dad, I didn't stop my brother from eloping this time, so please don't be mad at me." I stood in front of the mirror, a startling purple bruise encircling my neck. This is so much better than my last life. That time, when I tried desperately to stop Zhou Yunyuan from eloping, he grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the wall, leaving me with a bloody gash on my head. After that, I was left with a large scar on my forehead. Whenever it rains, I get a terrible headache. I splashed some cold water on my face, tidied up the messy living room, and went to the nearby library to study. My brother Zhou Yunyuan and I are twins. It's not just him who's taking the college entrance exam this year, I am, too. In my past life, Zhou Yunyuan hated me with a passion. When I was taking the college entrance exam, He slipped me a laxative, causing me to fail the exam. When he saw me emerge from the exam room, pale as a ghost, he felt an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. You made me lose the person who meant the most to me. Today, I'm going to make you taste that same pain. As for him, thanks to his excellent grades, he was accepted early through a special admission program. From that moment on, my life, which should have been full of promise, turned bleak. And in the end, I lost my life because of him. This time, I just want to live for myself. At 5:00 p.m., my dad, who was supposed to be at the hospital with my mom, called me. He cut straight to the chase. "Joe Tong, have you ever tampered with the safe at home? I know my dad already knows that the money at home has vanished." "No, I don't know the combination to the safe either." "Could it be your brother?" My dad quickly dismissed that idea. "No way. Your brother's a good kid. He wouldn't steal your mom's medical money." I snorted derisively to myself. Does that make me a bad kid? I urged my dad to call the police right away, but he hesitated. "No. What if it really was your brother who took it? If I call the police and he gets a criminal record, he won't be able to take the civil service exam. I'll try to get in touch with him first." I knew it would turn out this way. That suits me just fine. In my previous life, my brother's attempt to elope failed, so he entered University A on a scholarship after winning a math competition. The math competition was about to start, and he was bound to miss it. I've heard that he went all the way to the far-off northeast to fulfill Shinhuan's wish to see the snow up north. It would be almost impossible for my dad to find my brother on his own. My brother tends to struggle with certain subjects, and since he's been so preoccupied with his relationship with Shinhuan lately, his grades in those classes have dropped even further. At this rate, it's going to be very difficult for him to get into a university. It's also becoming harder to land a good job just by relying on the prestige of a top-tier university. My dad found out from the neighborhood security cameras that my brother and Shinhuan had run away together. It's almost certain that he's the one who took the money. When my mom heard the news, she started wailing and crying. "Oh my goodness. Yun Yuan used to be such a good kid. How did he end up like this? Honey, what are you standing there for? Go find him. You're having surgery in a couple of days." How could I possibly leave? When this came up, my mom started crying even harder. "We've already spent all our money on medical bills. Where am I supposed to get the money for the surgery?" Both of them fell silent. A moment later, my dad actually turned his attention to me. "Joe Tong, what were you doing at the library today? If you'd been home, you could have stopped your brother from running away. Do you realize that your brother is going to attend Tsinghua or Peking University? You've really done him a huge disservice." I found it amusing. In my past life, they resented me for meddling, which caused Zhou Yunyuan to drift apart from them. I haven't done a thing in my whole life, yet they still hold it against me, so I guess I'm just their punching bag. I said bluntly. It wasn't me who forced him to run away from home, and it wasn't me who made him steal money from home. You don't blame him, so why are you blaming me? My dad, furious and humiliated, slapped me across the face. "You dare talk back to me? Are you looking for a beating?" He hit me with such force that I staggered backward a few steps. A bright red handprint soon appeared on her fair face, and the taste of blood filled her mouth. My dad still wasn't satisfied, so he tried to whip me with his belt again. My mom quickly stepped in front of him. "Honey, don't act on impulse. Tong Tong really hasn't done anything wrong. Didn't take your anger out on her." My dad sighed helplessly. "Just spoil her. Tong Tong, are you okay? Your dad really is something so impulsive." My mother gently touched the cut on my face with her warm fingertips. The pain on her face didn't seem feigned. In my past life, I was fooled by that very same hypocritical facade of hers. I've always felt that my dad favors boys over girls just a little bit, but my mom is definitely a great mom. Whenever my dad scolded me, she would step in to stop him, and she always urged me to study hard, saying that only through education could a girl change her destiny. Until one day, after I gave my mom the money I'd earned from my part-time job, I overheard her complaining to my dad. If only I'd known back then. I wouldn't have been so stingy and would have let Tong Tong repeat the year. Old Lou's daughter next door is such a good student, she even bought her younger brother a house and a car. Tong Tong's just a factory worker. How much can she possibly make in a month? She can't even help Yun Yan out much. I just realized that when she told me to study hard before. It was so she could exploit me even more in the future. Later, they decided that school was too expensive. So they wouldn't let me repeat the year. Our family isn't that poor. She was just pretending to be broke so I'd send money home all so she could save up to buy a house for my brother. At that moment, I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. I just felt that my life was ridiculous and pitiful. Fortunately, I realized this early on this time, so I won't make the same mistake again. At that moment, I took a step back and said coldly, "I'm fine." My mom's hand froze in midair, and she looked startled. "Tong Tong, are you blaming Mom for not stopping your dad just now?" Yeah, my mom was completely stunned. You know, in the past, I would have definitely denied it, played the good daughter, and done my best to calm her down. But I don't want to grow up anymore. Growing up in a family like this, the more sensible you are, the worse your fate will be. Before my mom could say anything else, I turned and left the hospital room, refusing to play along with any more of that mother-daughter affection. She was left standing there, frozen in place. As soon as the weekend was over, I went back to school. Since my brother and Shinhuan eloped, there's an open spot on the math competition team. I took the initiative to apply to join. The teacher in charge of the math competition knows me. My talent in this area is actually just as good as my brother's. But at the time, the math competition team only had one spot, and they couldn't decide between me and my brother. Later, my mom cooked up a whole table of my favorite foods. She said to me, "Tong Tong, your brother isn't as well-rounded as you or he excels in every subject. If he can't get into a top university through a competition-based recommendation, it'll be really hard for him. Why don't you give this spot to your brother? Mom isn't playing favorites. She just wants both you and your brother to be happy." I felt a little uneasy, but I didn't want to upset my mother, who had always loved me so much. So I agreed anyway. And now, I just want to take back everything that rightfully belongs to me. The teacher handed me 2 sets of problems to work on, before my brother took me away and gave me to Shinhuan. That crazy guy had saved up some money, spent a year retaking the college entrance exam, and even entered a math competition, where I placed quite well. So I found these problems fairly easy. The teacher looked at my approach to the problem and nodded repeatedly, but didn't give me a direct answer. He said he needed to discuss it with the other teachers in the department before making a decision. As for my brother Zhou Yunyuan, he doesn't feel the slightest bit of regret about missing this math competition. He's busy showing off his romance all over the world. He just posted something on his moments. When you're with the one you love, every day feels sweet. The accompanying photo shows Shinhuan building a snowman. The location is in Harbin. Within 2 minutes, I couldn't see that post on Moments anymore. He must have either deleted that post or blocked me. Zhou Yunyuan sent me a message. "Hey, don't tell my parents I'm in Harbin." I replied, "Got it," and then asked, "Is being with Shinhuan really that much fun?" He was so happy that he was willing to betray and even hurt his closest relatives, and give up the bright future that should have been his. Zhou Yunyuan replied quickly, "I'm happy, being with Huan. I feel a sense of freedom I've never experienced before." A moment later, he replied, "I just didn't realize Huan spent money so freely. The money I brought with me will only last us 2 months living out here. Once a couple starts quibbling over money, their relationship is bound to fall apart." I knew full well that my brother's life on the run wouldn't be a happy one for long. A couple of days later, I got a call from my dad. He was beaten up, broke his hand, and can't take care of himself. He told me to put my studies on hold and go to the hospital to take care of him. It turned out that my dad couldn't find my brother, and my mom was in urgent need of surgery but couldn't afford it. In a fit of anger, he went to Shinhuan's house. Shinhuan's family is wealthy. If they're willing, They can certainly afford the medical bills. When my dad went to the Shin family's house, he spoke very harshly. How did your family raise your daughter? She's just a little slut at such a young age. All she knows how to do is seduce men. My perfectly good son was talked into it by your daughter, took his mother's life savings and ran away from home. He must have spent that money on your daughter. You have to pay us back. The Shin family were a rough bunch. They beat my dad up and threw him out the front gate. They threatened, if my dad dares to go over there again, we'll break his other arm too. My dad is the type who picks on the weak and is afraid of the strong. At home, he only dares to lay a hand on me. He didn't say a word and slunk off to the hospital to see a doctor. On the other end of the line, my dad was still groaning. Hurry up and take some time off work to come to the hospital and look after your old man. Without a second thought, I refused. I still have to study. My dad still says the same thing. What's the point of a girl going to school? Hurry up and come over, don't keep me waiting. I couldn't be bothered to listen to his nonsense, so I just hung up on him. The time it takes to talk to him is enough for me to work through two problems. Not long after, my mom called. Tong Tong, are you still holding a grudge against your dad for slapping you? He just has a bit of a temper, but he really loves you. For mom's sake, why don't you come over and take care of your dad? I can't manage on my own here either. Having suffered so much in my past life, I've long since become immune to her emotional appeals. No way. This is a critical time for me. I can't waste time on other things. My mom was stunned. How did you end up like this? It's all thanks to my mom's good upbringing. In my past life, Jo Yunyuan beat me so badly that I was covered in blood. I spent several days in the hospital and was barely able to take care of myself. At the time, my mom was about to have surgery, and my dad was busy taking care of her. So Jo Yunyuan was the only one who had time to look after me. My mom said the same thing to me. Tong Tong, this is a critical time for your brother. You can't waste time on other things. Don't hold it against him, just hang in there. And it'll pass. When she saw that I was unhappy, she tried to make me feel guilty again. Tong Tong, Mom knows you're the most understanding of all, so you'll definitely understand me, right? What goes around comes around. I guess my parents are reaping what they sowed. At that moment, I threw that weighty accusation back at her. Mom, you've always told me to change my fate through education. You love me so much, you must understand me, right? My mom was speechless. She seemed to want to say something else, but I cut her off with, I'll have to go now, me teacher needs to talk to me, and hung up. I don't regret falling out with my family so early on. If I keep pretending to be my mom's good girl, I'll just end up being taken advantage of by my family. But the teacher really did have something to discuss with me. After discussing it, the teachers in the math competition team decided to let me take my brother's place in the math Olympiad. This is undoubtedly wonderful news. In my previous life, I entered a math competition as a repeat student. Even if they received the honor, they were not granted a spot in the program. If I can achieve a good result this time, my path ahead will be much easier. I quickly packed my bags and joined the teachers and students from the competition team to travel to another city to participate in the competition. I heard from my homeroom teacher that my dad came to the school and caused a scene the very next day after I left. He called me an ungrateful wretch and told me to hurry to the hospital to take care of my sick mother and him. With his broken arm, the homeroom teacher told him that I had gone to compete. He still didn't believe it, so he rushed into the classroom and looked around. Then went to the dormitory and looked around there as well. Only after he didn't see me anywhere did he believe the homeroom teacher. And he told her to hurry up and call me back. My homeroom teacher is a really nice person. She said this competition is very important to might just be my ticket to a top university and asked my dad not to bother me for now, saying she could pay for a caregiver for him. In the end, my dad said, if my son Yunyuan can't get into a top university, she certainly won't either. What's the point of a girl studying so much? At this point, the homeroom teacher grew a little annoyed. Jo Tong, I know you've always been a dutiful child and do whatever your parents tell you, but you need to think more about yourself. Are they really worth sacrificing the bright future you deserve? Without hesitation, I replied. It's not worth it. I'm more concerned about something else right now. Teacher, did you end up paying him the caregiver's fee? Do you want the teacher to give it to you? They don't deserve it, the homeroom teacher said. With an answer like that, I can rest easy. Your dad's still waiting in my office. I'll tell him to get lost right now. Perhaps feeling that the language was too crude and didn't fit her serious image as a homeroom teacher, she added, what I mean is, have the security guard escort him out. I stifled a laugh. I understand. Thanks for your hard work, teacher. Once the competition was over, winter break began. I applied to live on campus so I could focus on studying and prepare for the college entrance exam. After all, we won't know the outcome of the competition until next spring. I'm fairly confident about this competition, but I need to be prepared for any outcome. During that time, my mom called me once, just trying to play the family card and get me to come to the hospital to take care of her. She cried to me, Tong Tong, Mom didn't have her surgery in time, and my condition has gotten much worse. I don't have long to live. Your dad lost his Honda's lucky if he can even take care of himself. Can't you come take care of Mom? Is your future more important than mine? I looked out at the snow-covered landscape and said, Mom, you could put the house up as collateral. That would cover the cost of the surgery and hiring a caregiver, wouldn't it? Without a moment's hesitation, she retorted, No way. I heard our neighborhood is going to be demolished soon. If we sell the house now, we'll lose out big time. Later on, everyone else will get a few properties to divide up, but our family will have nothing. Your brother won't be able to find a wife. Even now, my brother is still her top priority. I don't think my mom's condition has gotten that bad. She asked me to come back and take care of her just to save on the cost of a caregiver. Come to think of it, ever since my mom got sick, my dad has been running around taking care of everything for her at the hospital. On the one hand, the two of them get along well. On the other hand, it's also because if my mom passes away, I'll get a smaller share of the house. They all have their feet firmly on the ground, and their goals are aligned all to ensure that my brother's future is as smooth as possible. Mom, I said coldly, you've thought about my brother's future, so you should think about mine too. Senior year is really important to me, and I really don't have the time. My mom was speechless. After a moment, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't think about how you felt. I won't ask you to take care of me anymore. Could you come visit me? It's been a month since we last saw each other. I refused. Past experiences have taught me that if I go easy on them, I'm the one who ends up getting the short end of the stick. With a family like this, which only wants to drain me, the sooner I cut ties, the better. I've managed to save up a little money over the years. It's not much, but since I live and eat on campus, as long as I'm careful with my spending, it should be enough to get me by until the competition results are announced. I've made up my mind I am never going back to that chaotic home. My mom must have sensed how determined I was to study, because she never called again. As for my dad, he'd call every now and then to call me an ungrateful brat and a heartless person, so I just blocked his number. From then on, my life settled into a routine, with my days revolving solely around the cafeteria, the library, and my dorm. On New Year's Eve, the school cafeteria was closed, so I went to a dumpling shop on the food street to buy some dumplings. On my way back, the door of a van parked by the roadside suddenly swung open, accompanied by the cry, "That's my daughter." When I looked up, I saw my dad sitting in the car, a malicious glint in his eyes. At the same time, two burly men jumped out of the car and came straight at me. I immediately sensed something was wrong. It was a quiet little path with not a soul in sight. Even if I called for help, no one would come to my aid. I acted on the spot, dropped the dumplings, and ran toward the school without looking back. However, the van drove straight toward me, skidded to a stop, and blocked my path. With two burly men closing in from behind, I had nowhere to go. In the end, they dragged me into the car, my hands tightly bound. I looked at my dad. What are you going to do? Of course I'd sell you. My dad said bitterly. To get money for your mom's medical treatment. Are you crazy? Human trafficking is illegal. My dad sneered. You're my daughter. I worked my ass off to raise you. Now I'll do whatever I want with you. You owe me that much. He paused for a moment, then continued. Besides, I sold you to Shin Huan's older brother, Shin Yu. The Shin family is wealthy and influential. You'll live a life of luxury once you marry into the family. Melancholy. That half-crazy, half-clueless psycho. The moment I heard his name, I shuddered instinctively. I never expected that even after being reborn, I still couldn't change the fate of being sold to Shinyu by my own family. I still remember that in my previous life, once I saw my family for what they really were, I cut ties with them, repeated my senior year of high school, and got into a good college. By that time, the Shin family had fallen on hard times, and Shin Huan's mentally ill brother couldn't find a partner. Shin Huan saw that my brother wanted to get back together with her. At the time, my brother was in a good position, had graduated from a prestigious university and had a high-paying, respectable job. She suggested that if he could find a partner for her brother, she would marry him. My brother agreed. That time, he took the initiative to ask mom and dad for help, in an effort to mend their relationship with my brother. My parents called the police and falsely reported me missing, which led them to my address. Then they came to my door, broke my legs right before my eyes, and let my brother hand me over to Shin Huan's half-mad, half-foolish older brother, who tortured me to death. The car sped toward the Shin family's house. Despair washed over me like a tidal wave. Even if I were to live my life over again, I still wouldn't be able to change my fate. In fact, he even plunged himself into the depths of darkness prematurely. No, that's not it. My rebirth has meaning. My older brother, who was supposed to be admitted to a prestigious university on a scholarship, has now run away from home with Shin Huan. My mother, who should be recovering from surgery by now, is still worried about how to pay for her medical treatment. Since my rebirth, their lives haven't been as smooth as they used to be. If I can change their fate, I can change my own as well. I don't want to be a tool for pleasing others anymore. Nor do I want to be treated like a commodity to be bought and sold at will. Their flagging morale was revived. I sat in the car, calmly thinking about how to escape and make these people pay for what they'd done. It wasn't long before I found an opportunity. On New Year's Eve, traffic police were still stationed at the roadside, diligently conducting drunk driving checks. One of the burly men saw what was happening, cursed under his breath, and turned to leave, but with cars on both sides behind him, he couldn't turn around at all. He glanced in the rearview mirror and began, "Old Joe, you better knock her out." Before I could even say the word dizzy, I suddenly lunged forward, mustering all my strength, and slammed my head into the big guy behind the wheel. Neither the two burly men who had tied me up nor my dad had expected me to do that. After all, I behaved myself the whole way. When my dad said he was going to give me to Shinyu, I even laughed happily. "Dad, are you going to marry me off to the Shin family's eldest son? I never thought you'd be so kind to me this time." At first, my dad thought I was faking it. "You're that happy. You need to understand that if you go with Shinyu, you won't be able to go to school." It wasn't until I said, "I went to school just to marry into a good family. Now that I'm going to marry the eldest son of the Shin family, why would I need to keep studying?" And they saw that. Aside from a bit of resistance when I first got on the car, I'd been well behaved ever since. My eyes brimming with anticipation for the future that they gradually put their minds at ease. The burly men felt the same way. After all, in their eyes, I was just a girl who hadn't even turned 18 yet. And I had no idea that Shinyu was a madman who'd been torturing cats and dogs since he was a kid. The first step of my escape plan went even more smoothly than I had imagined. Just as I'd hoped, I managed to knock the big guy behind the wheel off balance. He lost control of the car, which then crashed into the back of the car in front, causing an accident. Now, it would be hard for anyone not to notice us. I saw a traffic cop looking over, and the driver of the car in front got out, cursing under his breath, and started walking toward us. I currently have two options before me. Call for help. Or catch them off guard again. I chose the latter. I figured that the moment I called for help, they'd knock me out. Then my dad would just say a few words to the traffic cop. And the cop would believe him after all. He's my dad. Who would think he'd harm me? It's better to make a bigger scene. I bit down hard on the big man's cheek and wouldn't let go. The taste of blood filled my mouth, and a wave of pleasure washed over me. The man grimaced in pain, grabbed my hair with his free hand, and punched me in the head over and over again. It hurts, but that's okay, I'll make him hurt even more. I bit him even harder, as if I wouldn't let up until I'd torn a chunk of flesh from him. My dad and old Joe, who was sitting next to me, frantically tried to pull me off him. My dad cursed under his breath. I knew you'd be a lying little brat and wouldn't do as you're told. Let go of me right now. The burly man I'd attacked practically roared. What kind of idiots are you? Why didn't you just knock her out? But it was too late. The traffic officer and the driver of the car that had been hit both knocked on the window at the same time. What are you doing? I finally managed to cry out for help. Help! They're going to sell me. The traffic cop knocked even louder on the window, his tone turning stern. Open the door right now. Old Joe asked the big guy in front of him. Old G, are we going? The burly man named Lao G, clutching his face which I had bitten to a bloody pulp, gnashed his teeth fiercely. Open it. The door opened, and all of us were led out of the car. They even untied the ropes binding my hands. I was able to breathe fresh, free air once again. The traffic officer asked, "What happened here?" Lao G spoke up. "Officer, please don't get the wrong idea. Did I ask you a question?" The traffic officer's gaze was as sharp as an eagle's, piercing him so deeply that he lowered his head. When he turned to look at me, he said, "Young lady, you tell me what's going on here." I explained everything clearly and in detail, how my father had abducted me from near the school and, against my will, tried to sell me. The more the traffic officer listened, the more he frowned. He looked at my dad. "Do you have anything to say?" I thought my dad would be shaking with fear when the traffic police questioned him. Yet, while his face had turned slightly pale when he first saw the traffic officer, his expression now could be described as calm and composed. It was as if he had already thought of a solution. I immediately had a bad feeling. "Officer, don't believe a word my daughter says." My dad sighed helplessly, then pointed to his head. "She's got a bit of a problem up here, schizophrenia, accompanied by delusions and manic episodes. That's why we tied her up with a rope." Lao Ji, who I'd bitten hard enough to draw blood, nodded in agreement. That's exactly how it was. I never expected her to go berserk halfway through and bite me back. What a stroke of bad luck. The two worked in perfect harmony, playing off each other seamlessly. I shook my head. "I'm not sick." "Officer, don't listen to what they're saying." The traffic cop gave me a look that said, "Hold on a minute. You say this young woman is mentally ill, though you have any proof?" My dad, completely unfazed, pulled a psychiatric diagnosis certificate from his pocket. "Officer, take a look for yourself." The traffic officer examined the medical certificate carefully. It bore the doctor's signature and the hospital's official stamp, so it didn't appear to be a forgery. Gradually, the look in his eyes toward my dad and the others became much kinder. I immediately sensed something was wrong. "Officer, don't believe what they're saying. This medical report is a forgery." The traffic officer clearly believed what they said and told me, "Young lady, stop acting up. Listen to your father and focus on getting better." My heart sank. I know that with this medical report, there's no way I can defend myself. No one can save me. I have to save myself. The traffic officer looked at my dad again, his tone much softer. "You two should take him back to the car right away." My dad nodded repeatedly, apologizing for the trouble while grabbing my hand and shoving me into the car. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, loud enough for only me to hear, "You think you're the only one with a brain? I've got one too. Once we get to the Shin family's place, I'll have them break your legs so you'll never be able to run away for the rest of your life. I guess in a crisis, your mind works extra fast." Something suddenly occurred to me. In his past life, Shinyu didn't just kill me while he had me locked in the basement. I once found a bloodstained student ID tag in the corner. On the rare occasions when Shinyu was lucid, he told me this was a memento from the first person he had killed. The victim was a girl in his class. She was very pretty, but she just didn't want to hang out with him. In a fit of rage, he tied her up and took her home, forcing her to play with him. I didn't expect her to be so fragile. I wore her out in just 2 days. When he said this, he showed not a shred of remorse. He merely regretted that the girl had died too quickly, hadn't had enough fun with her yet. It was only then that Shinyu's parents realized that their reclusive eldest son was actually mentally unstable. They stayed up all night to dispose of his body. According to him, the girl's disappearance caused quite a stir at the time, because before Shinyu's parents discovered he had committed murder, he had already disposed of some of the body parts on Tianwu Mountain. When the forest ranger discovered it, he was terrified and immediately called the police. This case is also known as the Tianwu Mountain dismemberment case. His parents were worried sick for quite some time, fearing he might get into trouble again. Before long, they withdrew him from school and kept him locked up at home. Even though the uproar over that incident had long since died down, his parents still wouldn't let him out, and he became increasingly erratic, rarely in his right mind. When the subject came up, Shinyu looked resentful. "It's all that girl's fault. She got me stuck at home. If I'd known, I wouldn't have let her die so easily." I wrote down that girl's name and student ID number at the time. I thought that if I ever managed to escape from this hellhole, I would definitely expose his evil deeds. Later, he tormented me until I was neither human nor ghost, and I buried that memory deep in my mind. At this critical moment, it suddenly came back to me. Shinyu once said that even after his parents discovered he had lost his mind, they still wanted him to carry on the family line and have a healthy child for them to raise. But he's struggling to find the right girl after all. If he makes even the slightest misstep, she could end up getting hurt. And there's hardly a parent who would let that slide. In their past lives, they waited all those years, only to end up with me. In this lifetime, they had already made a deal with their parents, which meant that Shinyu had already lost his mind and committed murder. Just as my dad was shoving me into the van, I shouted, "I know who killed the victim in the Tianwu Mountain dismemberment case." The traffic cop suddenly asked, "What did you say?" Shinyu wasn't lying to me. What he did really did cause quite a stir. As soon as I opened my mouth, the traffic officer knew exactly what I was talking about. Back then, I was so absorbed in my studies that I had no idea about it. My dad, afraid the traffic police would stop me again, quickly said, "Don't listen to her nonsense, she's just mentally ill." The driver whose car had been hit earlier also urged him, "That's right. Don't worry about her. Just take care of this quickly. I am in a hurry to get home for New Year's Eve dinner." I broke free from my father's grip and walked quickly up to the traffic officer. I know that because of my father's psychiatric evaluation, whatever I say will be taken with a grain of salt. But I'm telling the truth. Please believe me. I could tell the traffic officer was still a little hesitant. I continued, "If what I've said turns out to be true, then you'll be able to bring the murderer to justice and ensure he can never harm anyone again. That would be a great achievement. If it turns out to be a hoax, the worst that can happen is that you'll have wasted some police resources. In any case, doing something is better than doing nothing." I looked at him earnestly, hoping he would trust me just this once. This is our chance to bring Shinyu to justice. It was also my only chance to escape with my life this time. Perhaps because I sounded so sincere and because catching that murderer would indeed be a major achievement, the traffic officer thought it over for a couple of minutes, then immediately made a call, taking the opportunity to ask for my name and ID number. Then he told me to wait by the side of the road while he dealt with the traffic accident. It wasn't long before a police car pulled up, and several officers got out. My dad was taken aback. "Wait, you actually believed what she said? She was just talking nonsense." The police officer surnamedly glanced at him. "Whether that's nonsense or not, we'll find out once we investigate. We're conducting an investigation here, so please cooperate." My dad was already feeling guilty, and when he saw the police, He got even more scared. All right. On the other hand, the two burly men, eager to hand me over to the Shin family and collect their reward, started shouting. This woman is mentally unstable. What if she escapes while you're holding her? Officer Lee said coldly. Do you think we cops are pushovers? The big guy named Old Joe was about to say something else, but Old G stopped him. Never mind. They've let it go. But I can't just let it go like that. I said. They know the killer. To prevent them from tipping him off. Officers, you'd better keep them under control. Since those two burly men didn't complete their mission, they're sure to report back to the Shin family. It is highly likely that the Shin family will take early precautions. Bullshit. We might not be exactly good people. But there's no way we'd have anything to do with a murderer. Not a good person. Officer Lee really knows how to get to the heart of the matter. The higher-ups are taking this case very seriously. We appreciate your cooperation. He gave a nod to the people standing nearby. And the two police officers, polite yet firm, escorted the two burly men and my dad to the police car, telling them to wait at the police station for the time being. Officer Lee and I got into another car. I told them everything I knew, for example, that the victim's mutilated body was buried under the apple tree in front of the Shin family's house, and that the victim's blood-stained school uniform and student ID were still in the basement. It's not that the Shin family doesn't want to part with the latter. It's just that if they did, Shin Yu would go mad and harm himself. The Shin family had no choice but to retrieve the blood-stained clothes that were supposed to have been burned. Officer Lee asked, "How do you know all this so clearly? You wouldn't believe me even if I told you." I reiterated, "But I really am not crazy. And I'm not just making this up." Officer Lee said, "I know. Do you trust me? Before coming here, I spoke with your homeroom teacher on the phone. She told me she's never heard of you having a mental illness. On the contrary, you're very smart. You even participated in a math competition not long ago." Officer Lee was a decisive man. He immediately led his team to the Shin residence, as the person who provided the tip. I went along with them. The Shin family had been happily daydreaming about finding a wife for their twisted son. But when they saw all those police officers arrive, they panicked and instinctively took off running. Shin Yu didn't run away. Instead, he charged at the police with a knife and was shot in the leg. I stood a short distance away and watched as Shin Yu clutched his injured leg and wailed, tears and snot streaming down his face from the pain. The nightmare that had haunted me for 2 lifetimes and often jolted me awake in the middle of the night suddenly vanished. Shin Yu isn't some invincible demon. He cries when he's in pain. However, in his previous life, he had a weapon, while my parents had broken my arms and legs, leaving me with almost no chance to fight back against him. Now, everything is different. After the police subdued the Shin family, they successfully found evidence at the locations I had mentioned, proving that Shin Yu had committed the murder and that his parents had hidden the body. So the police took them to the station for questioning. Seeing them looking as if they'd lost their parents, I knew their lives were completely ruined. Justice, which was delayed in my past life, has finally arrived in this one. My dad and the 2 burly men who kidnapped me were still sitting in the police station, waiting for the police to hand me over to them. That way, they could sell me to the Shin family for money. Thinking of all this, their faces lit up with smiles. It wasn't until they saw the Shin family members get out of the police car, handcuffs still on, that they were taken aback. "Officer, what's going on here? The Shin family is suspected of murder and concealing a body, and we've arrested them," Officer Lee said, giving a nod to the person beside him. "As for you, you're suspected of kidnapping, and you won't escape charges of trafficking women either." On the way, I had already told the police all about my father's misdeeds. No sooner had Officer Lee finished speaking than the officers standing nearby subdued my father and the others. My father protested. "She's my daughter. I've raised her all these years. It's about time she paid me back. I can do whatever I want with her. How is that a crime?" Officer Lee said coldly. "Save that for the judge in court." When my father saw how upright and incorruptible Officer Lee was, he completely panicked. He pleaded with me, "Daughter, Dad knows he was wrong. I was forced into it. If I hadn't sold you, Your mom wouldn't have had the money for her medical treatment. I know you've always been a dutiful daughter, and I still need to go back and take care of your mom. For your mom's sake. Let's just let this matter drop. He was no longer the arrogant, domineering man he had been before. He was trembling all over with fear, his eyes pleading with me. He tried to play the family card with me, but he forgot one thing. I don't feel the slightest bit of affection for them. I looked at him calmly. I'm not the one who left my mom without money for medical treatment. Why should I have to pay for my brother's mistakes? Besides, if we're short on money, we can always sell the house. At the end of the day, none of you treat me like a human being. Rest assured, I won't let this matter slide. If they don't love me, I'll love myself all the more. As the witness who provided the tip, I was also questioned by the police. When the police asked me how I knew that the Shin family had committed murder and hidden the body, I thought for a moment and replied, I sometimes have prophetic dreams. So you're saying all of this was just a dream you had? I nodded and said that I had dreamed that my parents had broken both my legs and handed me over to Shinyu to be tortured. Which led me to discover that Shinyu had killed that girl. If I hadn't been reborn, all of this would have happened in the future. In a way, I wasn't exactly lying. I did foresee the future. Other than that, I don't have a better explanation. Surprisingly, the police actually believed my story in the end. They just told me that if I had any more clues about the killer in my dreams, I had to let them know. I suppose it's because police officers handle so many cases and have seen so many people and heard so many stories. In my situation, it's a bit unusual for them, but not exactly rare, I suppose. Shortly after the statement was taken, the victim's parents arrived, a well-dressed middle-aged couple with very gray hair. I heard from the police that over the years, the couple has been searching for their killer. But they haven't been able to find any useful leads, perhaps because they were so worn out. Their hair turned gray in just 2 short years. The police officer sighed. They've had it tough, too. They went to see Officer Lee first, and when they came out, their eyes were red and swollen, as if they had been crying. Later, the victim's mother saw me and immediately embraced me. Thank you. Now my daughter can finally rest in peace. The victim's father said to me, I've heard about your situation. You're a good kid. It's just a shame you ended up in a family like that. We have an empty house downtown that we'll transfer to your name. We'll also deposit 1 million yuan into your bank account. This should ensure you can leave that chaotic family behind and live a good life. The mother said, Don't be so quick to refuse. When our daughter went missing, we offered a reward. We'll give 5 million to anyone who provides useful information, and you deserve it. I didn't say anything else. I just said thank you with all my heart. When my mom found out that my dad had been taken to the police station and was likely facing several years in prison, she couldn't bear to stay at the hospital any longer. She knew exactly where I would be. She found me in the library. It had been a month since I'd seen her, and she looked so much more haggard and aged, unlike in my past life. When I stopped my brother from running away with the money he'd stolen, allowing her to receive timely treatment, after the surgery, she recovered well and even gained a little weight compared to before she got sick. My mom still thought I was the kind of daughter who was easy to manipulate. She started by coaxing me. Tong Tong, I didn't know your dad would do something like this. If I'd known, I definitely would have stopped him. Only then did she reveal the real reason she had come. I spoke to your father on the phone. He realizes he was wrong. Please ask the police to let him go. Just tell them it was all a misunderstanding. Once he's out, I'll have a serious talk with him. After all, I need his help too. I shot her a cold glance. You know better than anyone whether he's capable of doing something like this. After what's happened, there's no way I can ever think of you two as my parents again. Don't come looking for me. Don't want anything to do with you. My mom probably never imagined that her daughter, who had always been sensible and obedient, would become so unfeeling. She was taken aback at first, then began to play the victim, crying, Tong Tong, aren't you fine now? Why are you being so cruel to the parents who raised you? Will you only be happy once you see your dad in jail and I'm dead? I remained unmoved. I'm fine because I saved myself. Not because you suddenly had a change of heart. My father ended up like that because he brought it on himself. He got what he deserved. If I don't save myself, my fate won't be much better than it was in my last life. As for my mom, she'll use the money from selling me to pay for her surgery, then wait for the property to be demolished so she can buy her precious son a big house, find him a wife he likes, and they'll all live happily together and no one will give a damn about me. I watched my mom, tears streaming down her face as she played the victim, and said sarcastically, "Sometimes I really admire you. You can just start crying on a dime. It's a real shame you aren't an actress. You'd definitely win an Oscar for Best Actress." My mom couldn't take it anymore. "Enough already. If you'd stopped your brother that day from stealing money from home and running away, how could your father have done something like this?" I was so angry I burst out laughing. "Instead of blaming Zhou Yunyuan for stealing the money meant for your medical treatment, you're actually blaming me. After 2 lifetimes, I have finally come to understand a truth. In my past life, they didn't come to hate me because I stopped my brother from stealing money. In their eyes, the fact that I was born a woman is my greatest sin. So, I was destined to be sacrificed by my family to pave the way for my brother's success." Even at this point, my mom was still defending my brother. "What do you know? Your brother isn't a bad person, just got led astray by that girl. If only you'd stopped him back then. We definitely could have set him straight." My mom shot me another resentful glare. "As I thought. You can't count on a daughter. In the end, I'll still have to rely on my son. You'd better get in touch with your precious son first." My mom was so furious she could barely catch her breath. "Your brother is a good boy. Once he comes to his senses, he'll come back to me." She knew she wouldn't get anything out of me, so she had no choice but to slink away. A couple of days later, just as my mom had hoped, she finally heard from my brother. Then she broke down. It turns out that after my brother Zhou Yunyuan moved to Harbin, he rented an apartment and started living with Shenhuan. Before 2 months had even passed, he had spent all the family's money. He just wanted to support himself and Shenhuan by working. He's a good student and is quite a popular figure at school, but in society, he had neither a degree nor any work experience, so he had no choice but to work as a waiter. After 2 or 3 days, he was too exhausted to continue. Shenhuan had also started to think he was useless. He'd promised to make her happy, but now he couldn't even afford to buy her a single lipstick she liked. The young couple, who had once been all lovey-dovey and busy enjoying life, started arguing over every little thing once they ran out of money. My brother has started to miss his school days. He was a top student back then. His teachers liked him and his classmates respected him. His parents provided him with a comfortable lifestyle, so he never had to worry about food or shelter. It's nothing like it is now. He's looked down upon by everyone because he can't handle hardship. And people mock him for having the heart of a young master but not the life to match. Every day, as soon as he opens his eyes, he has to worry about money. But my brother is a very proud man. He would never admit that he made the wrong choice back then. Nor would he ever come back with his tail between his legs. He gritted his teeth and hung on for over a month. It wasn't until rent was due that he realized he really couldn't support himself and Shenhuan on his own. At Shenhuan's urging, he actually took the risk and decided to rob a supermarket at knife point. The cops aren't pushovers. The money wasn't even warm yet when they came knocking. Shenhuan immediately packed her bags, determined to go her separate way. My brother is a wreck. He ended up in this situation all because of Shenhuan. How could she abandon him so quickly, without even a word of comfort? It made all the effort he put into her lately seem like a joke. He confronted Shenhuan, asking how she could treat him this way. To everyone's surprise, Shenhuan actually laughed. "I was just messing with you. After all, I've never dated a top student before. Who would have thought that crazy old hack of yours would actually show up at school to call me a filthy whore and a homewrecker, saying I ruined you. The top student. That's why I made you run away with me. She made me lose face. So naturally I wasn't going to let her off easy. Anyway, my family is sending me abroad to study. Unlike you, if you don't get an education, you'll never amount to anything in this life. My brother never imagined that Shinhwanwo, in his eyes, was beautiful and spoiled yet still kind could be so malicious. He gave up everything for her without a second thought. But she didn't love him at all, she was just toying with him and taking revenge on his mother at the same time. Veins bulged on his forehead, and in a rare outburst, he snapped. "Shut up." Shinhwan scoffed dismissively. "Honestly, I really can't stand people like you. In my opinion, your mom is nothing but a crazy woman. But she's been nothing but good to you. And yet, when it came to the money for her medical treatment, you just went ahead and stole it. You really are your mother's good son." The police started kicking the door from the outside, and the thudding sounds made his nerves jangle. Shinhwan's cold, heartless words pushed him to the brink of a breakdown. "Enough," my brother said, pulling his hair out in frustration. "Mom hurt your pride, but I never did anything to wrong you. Why did you make me go rob someone and completely ruin my life?" Shinhwan glared at him with hatred. "Because you ruined my life too. A few days ago, I got a call from the police. My parents and my brother were arrested on suspicion of murder and concealing a body. It's all because you stole your mom's medical money. So your dad sold your sister to my family. I don't know how it happened, but your sister suddenly found out about the things my family had been doing. Now look at you, your business was already struggling. And this whole mess has driven us into bankruptcy. My parents are behind bars now. My lawyer told me they might spend the rest of their lives in prison. You've ruined my life," my brother shouted. "But I did it for your sake," Shinhwan sneered. "It's just because you're so stupid. You listen to everything I say. You're as obedient as a dog." With that, she grabbed her luggage and headed for the door. Suddenly, my brother burst into the kitchen. When he came out, he was holding a knife, and without batting an eye, he stabbed Shinhwan over and over again. "You." Shinhwan never imagined that my brother would hurt her. "You have to understand that my brother is usually incredibly nice to her." In her words, "He's as obedient as a dog." She didn't realize that Zhou Yunyuan had completely lost it because of her. He was like a drowning man. As he was about to drown himself, he tried to drag the person who had pushed him into the water down with him. Zhou Yunyuan's face was twisted with fury and madness. "Shinhwan, you've ruined my life. Die. Just die." The police finally kicked the door open and stormed inside, barely managing to save Shinhwan's life. Shinhwan's injuries were so severe that he died before the ambulance could take him to the hospital. On the way, she was still crying hysterically, shouting, "I don't want to die. I'm still young. I have a bright future ahead of me." At that time, I was being held captive by Xinyu. Shinhwan came to see me, and I begged her to set me free. I was still young, had just been accepted into college, and my bright future had only just begun. Shinhwan kicked me aside. "Zhou Tong, what kind of daydream are you having? Since I had Zhou Yunyuan capture you, there's no way I'm letting you go. You better just stay put by my brother's side. Loves well-behaved girls like you." Later, she immediately went and told Xinyu that I was trying to run away, and I was subjected to another round of torment. When my mom found out that my brother had not only committed robbery but also murder, she became very agitated, unable to handle such a shock. She coughed up a mouthful of blood and fainted. Fortunately, she was at the hospital, so it was easier for the doctors to treat her. When she woke up, she kept asking the police officers who had come to see her if they had made a mistake. Her son was such a good boy, hadn't even dared to kill a chicken since he was a child, so how could he possibly have killed someone? Upon receiving confirmation, she broke down in tears and began cursing Shinhwan. She blames Shinhwan for corrupting my brother. He used to be such a wonderful kid, even his teachers said he had what it took to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Great. Now Shinhwan has ruined everything. She started cursing at me too, saying that if I hadn't gone to the library back then, I could have stopped my brother from eloping, and he wouldn't have ended up like this. For my brother's sake, my mom finally sold the house. She used part of the money to pay for the surgery, and then spent a fortune hiring a lawyer for my brother, hoping he could help defend him and get him acquitted. All this had left her completely exhausted, and she no longer had the energy to cause trouble. My life has returned to normal. Winter break ended not long ago. My math competition results are in, and I came in first place. My wish came true, and I secured a spot at a top university through early admission. A few months later, my father was sentenced to 10 years in prison for kidnapping me and attempting to sell me for money. When I saw him in court, I hardly recognized him. He had lost a lot of weight. His temples were gray. His back was hunched. And he looked a good 10 years older, just like an old man. It seems he isn't doing very well in there. Now I can rest easy. You see, in my past life, thanks to them, I was tortured by Shinyu for years on end. Those days were nothing short of a living hell. When my father heard the verdict in court, he fainted on the spot. My mom looked at me with resentment. Zhou Tong, how could you be so heartless? He's your father, how could you bear to send him to prison to suffer? Don't we have you all as a fine example? My mom was so angry with me that she almost coughed up blood again. A few months later, my brother's verdict was handed down. He was sentenced to death, with a 2-year reprieve. When my mom heard the verdict, she fainted on the spot. Although she had the surgery, she is still in poor health. Her condition had been left untreated for too long, so the surgery didn't go as well as hoped. During her recovery from surgery, she was constantly worrying about my brother and didn't take proper care of herself at all. The doctor said her condition could relapse at any time. I don't think she has many years left to live. Later, I went to see my older brother, Zhou Yunyuan. He looked at me with hatred in his eyes. Zhou Tong, I had a dream. In it, you stopped me and prevented me from eloping. I entered a competition, got accepted into a top university on a scholarship, and had a bright future ahead of me. My gut tells me that all of this is real. He asked me, why didn't you stop me back then? I sneered. Why would I stop you? So you'd hate me for the rest of your life. So you could sacrifice me to a monster and let him torture me to death for the sake of your so-called happiness. Zhou Yunyuan, do you think I'm that kind of despicable person? With things having come to this, I didn't see a single trace of remorse or self-reflection on Zhou Yunyuan's face. Come to think of it, he is a selfish person after all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sold me out for his own happiness. Zhou Yunyuan roared. Zhou Tong, how could you be so selfish? For the sake of your own future, you've ruined our entire family. You've even sent the Shin family to prison. Our two families could have lived happily together. I was so angry I burst out laughing. Zhou Yunyuan, so you think you're so high and mighty, huh? Don't you think my life counts for anything? No matter how high and mighty you are, you're going to spend the rest of your life in this cell. Zhou Yunyuan wanted to hit me, but he couldn't even reach the hem of my shirt. All he could do was rage helplessly. Zhou Tong, I'll behave myself in prison and do my best to get my death sentence with a 2-year reprieve commuted to life imprisonment, and then to a fixed-term sentence. Once I get out, I'll never let you off the hook, I said with certainty. That day will never come. Less than 2 days later, Zhou Yunyuan was dead, killed by Shinyu. It is said that the two ran into each other during their break, and Shinyu suddenly used a small piece of metal he had hidden to slash his throat. When the prison guard tried to stop him, he took that small piece of metal again and stabbed Zhou Yunyuan in the main artery. In an instant, Zhou Yunyuan's blood spurted out like a fountain. As the prison guard subdued him, Shinyu laughed nervously. Die. Just die. You worthless piece of trash, you don't deserve to live. Go ahead and die already. I wasn't surprised by the news. After learning that Shinyu and Zhou Yunyuan were being held in the same prison, I sent Shinyu a letter. In the letter, I identified the person responsible for sending him to prison, Zhou Yunyuan. If he hadn't eloped with Shinhuan, none of the subsequent events would have unfolded. I also revealed one more thing. Shinhuan was killed by Zhou Yunyuan. Shinyu is a madman who takes things to extremes. He blamed my brother for all the suffering he endured in prison. Anyone who causes him suffering will face 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold retaliation. As for my brother, completely robbed him of his freedom and even caused his sister's death. There's no way Shinyu would spare his life. when my mother learned that my brother had been murdered. She couldn't bear the blow and passed away just a couple of days later. My dad wasn't doing much better either. When he heard the news of my brother's death, the shock caused him to have a stroke, since Shinyu was already facing a serious charge and had committed murder in prison. The gravity of the situation led to his swift execution. Mr. and Mrs. Shin were so devastated by the successive losses of their daughter and son that they fell ill and never recovered. And I went off to college, starting a whole new chapter in my life. Many years later, I fulfilled my dream of becoming a doctor. After successfully saving myself, I began helping others. My days were busy but fulfilling.